I welcome you all to my 18th lecture on signals and systems for electronics and communication engineering students and for electronics and computer engineering students. In the last lecture, we did Z transform and inverse Z transform. Today, we will discuss inverse Z transform methods. To calculate inverse Z transform, one particularly useful procedure for the rational Z transforms consists of expanding the algebraic expression into a partial fraction expansion and recognizing the sequences associated with the individual terms. So we will discuss one example. Now consider the Z transform xz is equal to 3 minus 5 by 6 Z inverse divided by 1 minus 1 by 4 Z inverse into 1 minus 1 by 3 Z inverse as shown on the screen. With region of convergence, that is magnitude Z is lying in between 1 by 4 to 1 by 3. Obtain its inverse Z transform for getting xn. Now ROC is given here and expression for xz is given here. Now we will expand it by using by the method of partial fractions, like as shown in equation A2. Xz is equal to 1 by 1 minus 1 by 4 Z inverse plus 2 by 1 minus 1 by 3 Z inverse. So this is expanded by the method of partial fractions. Now in the equation A3, it is clearly mentioned that xn, which I am going to obtain after inverse Z transform, is having two components, x1n and x2n. So x1n is corresponding to 1 by 1 minus 1 by 4 Z inverse, and x2n is corresponding to 2 by 1 minus 1 by 3 Z inverse. Now the Z transform of x1n is 1 by 1 minus 1 by 4 Z inverse for magnitude Z greater than 1 by 4. That is ROC for this x1n or x1z. ROC is magnitude Z greater than 1 by 4. And x2n is having Z transform 2 by 1 minus 1 by 3 Z inverse. And the corresponding ROC, that is for x2z, is magnitude Z is less than 1 by 3. And that is determined based on the given ROC in the question, that xz is having ROC, that is magnitude Z is lying in between 1 by 4 to 1 by 3. So based on this, I can write x1z as 1 by 1 minus 1 by 4 Z inverse for ROC magnitude Z greater than 1 by 4, and 2 by 1 minus 1 by 3 Z inverse with ROC magnitude Z less than 1 by 3. Now these are the individual terms x1z and x2z with their respective ROCs. Now look at equation A4. Now A4 is looking at x1z. I can clearly write that x1n is equal to 1 by 4 is to n un. As this ROC, that is magnitude Z is greater than 1 by 4, clearly indicates about the causal signal. That is why x1n is equal to 1 by 4 raised to power n un. Now look at equation A5 for x2z. Now here ROC is magnitude Z less than 1 by 3. So corresponding to this, x2n is equal to minus 2 bracket 1 by 3 raised to power n u bracket minus n minus 1. So x2n is equal to minus 2 bracket 1 by 3 raised to power n u bracket minus n minus 1. That is equation A7. Now look at equation A3. Xn is equal to x1n plus x2n. So combining both based on A3, xn is equal to 1 by 4 raised to n un minus 2 bracket 1 by 3 raised to power n u bracket minus n minus 1. And that is the answer for this question. Now suppose that the partial fraction expansion of xz is of the form xz is equal to summation I running from 1 to m capital AI bar divided by 1 minus small ai z inverse, marked as equation B1, so that the inverse transform of xz equals the sum of inverse transforms of the individual terms in the equation. Now, if the ROC of xz is outside the pole at z is equal to ai, this is very important point. If the ROC of xz is outside the pole at z is equal to ai, the inverse transform of the corresponding term in equation B1 is capital AI bar small ai raised to the power n un. So this point is very important. I repeat, if the ROC of xz is outside the pole at z is equal to ai, the inverse transform of corresponding term in equation B1 is capital AI bar small ai raised to the power n un. On the other hand, if the ROC of xz is inside the pole at z is equal to ai, the inverse transform of this term is minus capital AI bar small ai raised to the n u bracket minus n minus 1. So these 2 points are very important while solving the question. Another very useful procedure for determining the inverse Z transform relies on a power series expansion of xz. This procedure is motivated by the observation that the definition of Z transform given by xz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn z raised to a minus n can be interpreted as a power series involving both positive and negative powers of z. The coefficients in this power series are in fact the sequence values of xn. Now we will solve it with one example. Consider xz is equal to 1 by 1 minus a z inverse, and the ROC is magnitude z greater than magnitude a. Now, I can, from ROC, I can guess that this is a causal system, or it is a right-handed sequence. This expression can be expanded in a power series by long division as, now here look at this, it is 1 divided by 1 minus a z inverse. So put divisor here and 1 here, and now I am going to divide 1 by 1 minus a z inverse. So I will write 1 here and 1 minus a z inverse here, following the long division process, and I am having remainder a z inverse here. Now then I will multiply this with a z inverse and put this expression here, and following the division procedure I can have remainder a square z raised to the power minus 2 as shown on the screen. And now the quotient is 1 plus a z inverse plus a square z raised to power minus 2 plus so on. So I can write 1 by 1 minus a z inverse is equal to 1 plus a z inverse plus a square z raised to power minus 2 plus so on. Now expression for xz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn z raised to power minus n. Now by comparing equations C3 and C4, we can show that xn is equal to 0 for n less than 0. x0 is equal to 1 for n is equal to 0. Here, compare C3 with C4. Expand C4 and then compare C3 with C4. I can easily get that xn is equal to 0 for n less than 0. X0 is 1 for n is equal to 0. X1 is equal to a for n is equal to 1. X2 is equal to a square for n is equal to 2. Now, following these observations, I can write that xn is equal to a raised to power n un, and the series of expansion is and the series expansion in equation C3 converges since magnitude z is greater than magnitude a, or magnitude a z inverse is less than 1. Now, based on these observations, I can write xn is equal to a raised to power n un, and the series expansion in equation C3 converges since magnitude z is greater than magnitude a, or magnitude a z inverse is less than 1. Now, if instead the ROC of xz is specified as magnitude z less than a, I repeat, if instead the ROC of xz is specified as magnitude z less than a, or equivalently magnitude a z inverse greater than 1, then the power series expansion for 1 by 1 minus a z inverse in equations C3 does not converge. Now look at equation C3. If instead ROC of xz is specified as magnitude z less than magnitude a, or equivalently magnitude a z inverse greater than 1, then the power series expansion for 1 by 1 minus a z inverse in equation C3 does not converge. However, we can obtain a convergent power series by long division again as, now here expression is xz is equal to 1 by 1 minus a z inverse. Now we will write 1 minus a z inverse in this fashion, in a particular pattern like this. I will write it as minus a z inverse plus 1 and divide 1 by minus a z inverse plus 1. I will divide 1 by minus a z inverse plus 1. Now, following the process of long division as shown on the screen, I can get the quotient minus a inverse z minus a raised to minus 2 z square minus so on. So I can write equation D2 as 1 by 1 minus a z inverse is equal to minus a inverse z minus a raised to minus 2 z square minus so on. But I know that xz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn z raised to power minus n. So expand D3. Now by comparing equation D2 and D3, we can show that xn is equal to 0 for n greater than equal to 0. And x minus 1 is minus a inverse for n is equal to minus 1. X minus 2 is minus a raised to minus 2 for n is equal to minus 2. Now, based on these observations, I can write that xn is equal to minus a raised to n u bracket minus n minus 1. And the series expansion in equation D2 here now converges since magnitude z is less than magnitude a. So this is the process by which we can obtain xn using the method of inverse Z transform by a power series expansion. Now we will discuss the properties of Z transform. The first property is linearity. If x1n is a sequence, then its Z transform is x1z, with ROC is equal to R1. And if x to n is a sequence, discrete time sequence, and its Z transform is x to Z, where ROC is equal to R2, then if there is a third sequence x3n that is equal to a x1n plus b x2n, then we take its Z transform, and if I'm getting a x1z plus b x2z as shown, and with ROC containing R1 intersection R2, then this follows the linearity property, particularly if there is no pose zero cancellation. If the linear combination is such that some zeros are introduced that cancel pose, the region of convergence may be larger. Example, the sequences a raised to n un and a raised to n un minus 1 both have a region of convergence defined by magnitude z greater than magnitude a. But the sequence corresponding to the difference a raised to n un minus a raised to n un minus 1 is equal to delta n has a region of convergence that is the entire z plane. So this is very interesting example. I repeat, the sequence a raised to n un and a raised to n u bracket n minus 1 both have a region of convergence defined by magnitude z greater than magnitude a. But the sequence corresponding to the difference a raised to n un minus a raised to n un minus 1 is equal to delta n has a region of convergence that is the entire z plane. Now the time shifting property. If xn is a sequence and its z transform is xz with ROC capital R. Now if I am having a delay replica of xn, that is xn minus n naught, yn is equal to x bracket n minus n naught, then its z transform is yz, that is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x bracket n minus n naught into z raised to minus n. Now I will put m is equal to n minus n naught, and I will get bracket summation m running from minus infinity to infinity xm z raised to minus m into z raised to minus n naught. Now this term in the bracket is equal to xz into z raised to minus n naught, with ROC is equal to R, except for the possible addition or deletion of origin or infinity. Now look at equation E2. Because of the multiplication of z raised to minus n naught, for n naught greater than 0, pose will be introduced at z is equal to 0, which may cancel corresponding zeros of xz at z is equal to 0. Very important point. Similarly, if n naught is less than 0 in E2, zeros will be introduced at z is equal to 0, which may cancel corresponding poles of xz at z is equal to 0. So you need to be careful while calculating the final answer. Now we will talk of scaling in the z domain. Now if the sequence xn is having z transform xz with ROC is equal to capital R, then z naught raised to power xn is equal to yn. Now take its z transform, and that will be yz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity z naught raised to power n xn z raised to power minus n, or equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn bracket z by z naught raised to power minus n. Or I can express it as capital X bracket z by z naught, and the ROC corresponding to this is magnitude z naught R. Mark it as equation E3, where magnitude z R is the scaled version of capital R. Now example, if xz has a pole or 0 at z is equal to a, then yz is equal to x bracket z by z naught has a pole or 0 at z is equal to z naught a. So this is very interesting observation. Now we will talk about special case when Z naught is equal to e raised to power j omega naught. Now magnitude Z naught R will be equal to capital R. Look at this. Because magnitude Z naught is equal to 1. So magnitude Z naught R is equal to R. And e raised to power j omega naught n xn will have Z transform capital X bracket e raised to power minus j omega naught Z. It can be interpreted as a rotation in the Z plane. Consequently, all the pole zero locations rotate in the Z plane by an angle of omega naught. Now look at this diagram. This is the pole zero pattern for Z transform of a signal xn in Z plane. Now look at this. This is a pole and these are zeros. Now this is pole zero pattern for the Z transform for a signal e raised to power j omega naught and xn. Now look at the rotation. This forms the angle omega naught, and clearly all the poles in zero locations rotate in Z plane by an angle of omega naught as shown in this pole zero diagram in Z plane. So rotation is very clear in the pole zero diagram by an angle omega naught. Next is time reversal. If xn is having Z transform xz and ROC is equal to capital R, and now we have a sequence yn is equal to x bracket minus n. Now I am going to take its Z transform. It is summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x bracket minus n z raised to power minus n. Now put m is equal to minus n and I will get yz is equal to summation m running from minus infinity to infinity xn z raised to power m. Now clearly yz is equal to x bracket z inverse and the ROC is 1 by capital R. Now here the observation is that if z naught is in the ROC of xn, then 1 by z naught is in the ROC of x bracket minus n. So this is an important observation. And next property is time expansion. The continuous time concept of time scaling does not directly extend to discrete time, since the discrete time index is defined only for integer values. I repeat, the continuous time concept of time scaling does not directly extend to discrete time, since the discrete time index is defined only for integer values. However, the discrete time concept of time expansion, that is of inserting a number of zeros between successive values of a discrete time sequence xn, can be defined and does play an important role in discrete time signal and system analysis. Specifically, x subscript k bracket n is equal to x bracket n by k if n is a multiple of k, and it is equal to 0 if n is not a multiple of k. X subscript k bracket n has k minus 1 zeros inserted between successive values of original signal. Now in this case, if xn is having z transform xz with ROC capital R, then yn is equal to x subscript k bracket n is having z transform yz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x subscript k bracket n into z raised to minus n. Put n by k is equal to m, that is summation m running from minus infinity to infinity xm bracket z raised to k raised to the power m. And I can write this expression as yz is equal to capital X bracket z raised to power k with ROC is equal to capital R raised to power 1 by k. That is, if z is in the ROC of xz, then point z raised to power 1 by k is in the ROC of capital X bracket z raised to power k. If xz has a pole or 0 at z is equal to a, then capital X bracket z raised to power k has a pole or 0 at z is equal to a raised to power 1 by k. So it is an interesting observation based on the ROCs of xn and x subscript k bracket n. Now next is conjugation. If sequence xn is having z transform xz with ROC is equal to capital R, then x conjugate n is equal to yn having z transform yz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate n z is for minus n. I can rewrite it as bracket summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn bracket z conjugate raised to power minus n bracket close, and it is conjugate sign outside the bracket. Now I can rewrite it as yz is equal to capital X conjugate bracket z conjugate. Now special case, if xn is real, then xz is equal to x conjugate bracket z conjugate. It is only possible when xn is real. Then xz is equal to x conjugate bracket z conjugate. Now if xz has a pole or 0 at z is equal to z naught, then it must also have a pole or 0 at complex conjugate point z is equal to z naught conjugate. So very important observation based on conjugation property. Next is convolution property. If x1n is having z transform x1z with ROC is equal to R1, and x2n is having z transform x2z with ROC is equal to R2, then what about the signal yn is equal to x1n conjugate x1n linearly convolved with x2n? That is, yn is equal to x1n linearly convolved with x2n. We will have to take its z transform. So z transform of yn is yz is equal to x1z into x2z with ROC containing R1 intersection R2. Now we'll prove it. So yz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x1n linearly convolved with x2n into z raised to power minus n. Now here, instead of this, I will write the convolution sum formula here. And yz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity summation m running from minus infinity to infinity x1m x2 bracket n minus m z raised to power minus n z raised to power minus m into z raised to power plus m. So here I have played a mathematical trick here. Now this summation m running from minus infinity to infinity x1m x2 bracket n minus m is convolution sum formula or superposition sum formula. Here z raised to power minus n is there. And now I have multiplied it by z raised to power minus m and multiplied it by z raised to power plus m. Now I will rearrange the summation terms, and yz is equal to bracket summation m running from minus infinity to infinity x1m z raised to power minus m into summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x2 bracket n minus m z raised to power minus bracket n minus m. Now we will look at this term in the bracket. It is equal to x1z, and this summation term is equal to x2z. So yz is equal to x1z into x2z. So it is clear that if two sequences in time domain are linearly convolved, then their z transforms are going to be multiplied in z domain. That is x1n linearly convolved with x2n when we will take its Z transform, we will get x1z into x2z, and the ROC will be R1 intersection R2. Now we will solve one question by using Z transform approach. Consider an LTI system for which output yn is equal to hn linearly convolved with xn. We need to get the output where the impulse response is hn is equal to delta n minus 1, and the input signal is xn. So using this convolution property, that is yn is equal to x1n linearly convolved with x2n, I can write yz is equal to xz into hz. As yn is equal to hn linearly convolved with xn, so their z transforms are going to be multiplied like this: yz is equal to xz into hz, yz is equal to xz into hz. We need to get hz. So hz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity, hn z is from minus n, and that is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity delta n z is from minus n minus summation n running from minus infinity to infinity delta bracket n minus 1 z is from minus n. Now look at this summation. Delta n is defined at n is equal to 0. So put n is equal to 0 here and we will get 1 here. And here in this summation term, delta bracket n minus 1 is defined at n is equal to 1. So I will put 1 here and I will get z inverse. So hz is equal to 1 minus z inverse. Now I will substitute as z in J6. I will get yz is equal to xz minus xz z inverse. Now it is clearly indicating that its inverse z transform is yn is equal to xn minus x bracket n minus 1. So it is, I have obtained yn by using z transform approach. That is, first I have calculated yz, that is equal to xz into hz, and then I took inverse z transform to get yn. Now we will verify the result by directly applying the linear convolutions here. So yn is equal to bracket delta n minus 1 linearly convolved with xn, and I will get yn is equal to xn minus x bracket n minus 1. So look at this, j9 is equal to j11. So both are equal. Therefore, you can directly calculate the linear convolution, or you can calculate output through the Z transform approach. The answer will be same. So in some applications, it is difficult to apply the linear convolution sum formula directly. So we will opt the Z transform approach. That is, we will first calculate Z transform of output yz, that is equal to xz into hz, xz into hz. Then we will apply inverse Z transform of yz on yz to calculate yn, that is output sequence. So both approaches are correct, and it depends upon the application that any of these approach you can use to solve the question. Now next is differentiation in the Z domain. If xn is having Z transform xz and ROC is equal to capital R, then yn, if yn is equal to nxn, then its Z transform is yz is equal to minus z dxz by dz with ROC R. Now we will solve it. We know that xz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn, z is from minus n. Now differentiating both sides with respect to z, I will get dxz by dz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity minus n xn, z is from minus n minus 1. Now the rearrangement of this equation leads to minus z dxz by dz is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity nxn, z is from minus n. So look at this equation. It is clear that z transform of nxn is minus z dxz by dz. Hence, we have proved J12, that differentiation property in Z domain. Now we will do one example. If xz is equal to log bracket 1 plus az inverse with magnitude z greater than magnitude a, that is ROC, then determine xn. We know that nxn is having z transform minus z dxz by dz. Just prove that. Now we have xz is equal to log bracket 1 plus log 1 plus az inverse. We will substitute it here and we will get az inverse divided by 1 plus az inverse for magnitude z greater than magnitude a. I have substituted the value of xz here, that is log bracket 1 plus az inverse, and I have got az inverse 1 plus az inverse. But we know that minus a raised to n un is having z transform 1 by 1 minus bracket minus a z inverse. So multiplying now both sides of K3 by A, now we will get A bracket minus A raised by n un, and its Z transform is A divided by 1 plus A Z inverse. Now, combining this with the time shifting property yields A bracket minus A raised by n minus 1, U bracket n minus 1 is the sequence, then its Z transform is A Z inverse divided by 1 plus A Z inverse. Consider equation K4, use the time shifting property, that is A bracket minus A raised by n minus 1. Instead of n minus 1, U bracket n minus 1. Now, time shift by 1 unit, so its Z transform is A Z raised to minus 1 divided by 1 plus A Z inverse for magnitude Z greater than magnitude A. Now look at equation K2 and K5. From K2 and K5, it is evident that when we will take Z transform of nxn, we will get AZ inverse divided by 1 plus AZ inverse, when xz is log bracket 1 plus AZ inverse. So nxn is having Z transform AZ inverse divided by 1 plus AZ inverse. And K5 gives us answer that A bracket minus A raised by n minus 1, U bracket n minus 1 is having Z transform AZ inverse divided by 1 plus AZ inverse. Therefore, from K2 and K5, nxn is equal to A bracket minus A raised to power n minus 1, U bracket n minus 1. Or I can rearrange it to give xn is equal to minus bracket minus A raised to power n, U bracket n minus 1 divided by n. So that it is how we have got the sequence xn. It is a little bit tedious, but you need to do it by following this procedure. Now next is the initial value theorem. If xn is equal to 0 for n less than 0, then x0 is limit z tends to infinity xz. I repeat, the initial value theorem is very important. If xn is equal to 0 for n less than 0, then x0 is equal to limit z tends to infinity capital Xz. For x bracket n is equal to 0 for n less than 0, capital Xz is equal to summation n running from 0 to infinity xn z is from minus n. Now expand this series in M2. As z tends to infinity, z is from minus n tends to 0. Look at M2. As z tends to infinity, z is from minus n tends to 0 for n greater than 0. Whereas for n is equal to 0, z is from minus n is equal to 1. Therefore, if x0 is finite, then limit z tends to infinity xz is finite. Therefore, x0 is equal to limit z tends to infinity capital Xz. This is initial value theorem. Consequently, with xz expressed as a ratio of polynomials in z, the order of the numerator polynomial cannot be greater than the order of the denominator polynomial, or equivalently, the number of finite zeros of xz cannot be greater than the number of finite poles. So I repeat, consequently, xz expressed as a ratio of polynomials in z, the order of numerator polynomial cannot be greater than the order of denominator polynomial, or equivalently, the number of finite zeros of xz cannot be greater than the number of finite poles. So this is the initial value theorem. I repeat that if xn is equal to 0 for n less than 0, then x0 is equal to limit z tends to infinity capital Xz. So this is initial value theorem. So I finish my lecture here. And these are the reference books. Thanks for attending this session on signal system. And that's all for this day.